And at that time, there was no AI. There was no utilization of AI. And if we look at the payments world right now, be it UPI in India, mobile money in Africa, Pix in Brazil, PromptPay in Thailand, all have one thing in common: mobile at the core. Now, AI, on the other hand, it's dominating the headlines mainly because of its ability to automate the processes which were previously challenging to automate. I'll give you one example. Transaction monitoring is one function that we do in banks, which require huge amount of manual resources. You would see AML department is always the largest department in the compliance department of the banks. Now, here, AI has been most effective and productive. So deep learning basically helps identify intricate transaction patterns, which are then leveraged by machine learning to identify fraudulent or suspicious transactions and generate a score, basically. On top of that, natural language processing analyzes textual data such as past interaction with the users or the transaction notes to further support the decision making. So if I have to summarize, it's not about which one is dominating. It's about how these two are coming together and redefining inclusion, access, impact at scale.
Redefining inclusivity with balancing.
Yes.
Great. The next question is, what do you think about the mobile first? Is it really contributing, reaching to the communities which I talked about sometime, for the credit scoring or the payments or other financial tools? Because these people are really looking for such kind of a thing, and what way the mobile first can help them? Yeah?
I'll go, shall I? Okay. So look, not so much here in India, but since Sekura's been acquired recently, if nobody knows that, by XConnect, we've now started to look deeper into utilizing the mobile data from a thin credit file perspective. So what does that mean? If you think about countries where prepay phones are predominantly used, so obviously here in India it's a big market, obviously on the African continent the same. A lot of people don't have a credit footprint. So we talk about India, and I think it's amazing how money is being offered for people, for cash flows, for living, for starting new businesses. So in Africa, we've started to run now pilots where we're working very closely with the mobile operator, and we're looking at how often the end user is topping up their phone. So that could be with the equivalent of 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 500 rupees. Is that daily, weekly, monthly? So that's then helping a bank or a lender make a decision on what kind of money does this individual have. But more importantly, they're then allowing the payment for that loan to be taken directly from the handset. So if the person's putting the equivalent of 500 rupees on the phone, they can then transfer the airtime to the lender. The lender takes that as the payment, but then resells it back out into the ecosystem. So it's one way that it's helping inclusion, and the mobile operators are a forefront in that.
What are your views, Akshay?
So while I completely agree with Mark, so I think mobile first is not just a strategy. I think it is something which is just necessary. It is like, most essential thing, because without that, so many things will not work out. Like the way UPI payments are happening today, and they have reached the grassroots levels also, and the way people are now able to apply for EMIs or qualify for various schemes and car loans and all. So a lot of it is because there is a mobile first thing in place in most places. It is enabling people to touch the technology. Like I said, mobile, and like we all said, mobile phones and this whole telecom infrastructure plays a very important role, and the most important role actually, to make the AI and the technology reach the people. And earlier, like how people never had any kind of credit scores, and they do not have a lot of transactions were happening in cash. So now at least because of mobile phones, since there is like a lot of UPI payments happening, people are having a credit history and then they can apply digitally. It makes everything a lot easier for them to get access to credit, to get access to that like entire credit history, and to get access to a lot of different schemes that the government or even the private sector are having.
Okay. Gautam?
So I think, I firmly believe, what internet was in the 2000s, I think this era belongs to the mobile first. We are all on the move, always kind of busy doing transactions, right? So things are happening on the fly. And that's where I think it becomes very, very important to kind of also focus on the security aspects of every transaction. And that's where, one needs to kind of build algorithms which are not only kind of now harping on, while the credit score is important, but I think you also need to kind of have a fraud prevention standpoint, also need to look at a lot of other anomalies while you're doing a transaction. The anomalies could be in terms of your IP addresses, in SIM swaps. Some of these are major problems I think that the digital ecosystem is today grappling with. And hence I think one needs to kind of broaden the scope of intelligence scoring from just a few parameters to kind of a widespread range of parameters, right from your SIM bindings to kind of taking it to your geolocation. So we as data processors need to now graduate from just being data processors to becoming a fiduciary agent for the ecosystem and work towards a legitimate purpose of preventing fraud.
Great. Sudhir, would you like to add?
Sure. So I'll give an example. At Twixor, we were entrusted with one of the largest POS providers in the country to do a solution that works for a lot of these Kirana stores. Now, Kirana stores are not traditionally, they are small shopkeepers, they're not very comfortable having a big desktop machine, so the solution used to be for the longest of time have a large sales force trying to onboard each of these merchants, which was inefficient, expensive, and also time consuming because you have to take these documents, go to the bank. It takes a good 1-2 weeks for a merchant to be onboarded. So we built an agentic AI solution which can actually allow the merchant to do self-onboarding, where they can do the entire process on their own, at their own time. So it becomes a lot more easier, it's efficient. So this is where a mobile-first thinking basically changes the whole perspective of things, because you're not just trying to benefit something, you're just making it more practically possible. Otherwise, it just takes time because people are very resistant to things that don't make sense to them in these ways.
So all of you are saying that the technology or the mobile first technology will change or transform drastically the Indian business, particularly in Fintech, where you see the lot of growth is going to happen in next 5 years. That's the summary I take it from all of your.
Just a case in point, in Africa, if you look at it, what M-Pesa did, right? They created an ecosystem whereby, a lot of unbanked customers were able to have access to credit, right? I think we can go miles. If we are able to create a very robust digital infrastructure.
Good. So on to the general experience. You are expert in your own areas, particularly on to the telecom side. But do you think that the fintech side is missing? The way mobile development is happening, fintech is not coming up to that mark. And though the technology is available, the mobile technology I am saying, that technology is being not used by the fintech. Is correct? And our people are struggling to connect between these two, because combination of these two areas, the fintech and the mobility, is going to expand the new avenues for increasing the customer base. What is your take on this?
Then let me take this one. So if you ever hear a conversation between regulator and a fintech player would always say, look, I'm a tech player, I should not be heavily regulated. And the regulator would say, no, it doesn't matter. If you're coming in this space, you will be heavily regulated just like any other player. So, fintech, I think the growth of fintech will really happen along with regtech. And when these two will come together, the technology will really progress faster. Right now, most of the challenges erupt when we deploy fintech, and later we found out that these are not in line with the regulations. So I think that aspect needs to be worked upon, and it has a lot of potential to grow. There are challenges, however, those will be solved with time. For example, many a times, banks and financial institutions, when they deploy AI in-house, their first concern is about accuracy, because accuracy remains very low in the initial period. However, we always recommend that patience is the only recommendation. As more and more decision errors are submitted to algorithms, training sets get bigger and bigger, you will eventually see results. So that's how things will progress. I think mobile first is not just a strategy, it's a lifeline. It's rewriting the rules both in the world of payments as well as credit.
Sudhir?
I think one of the things in a banking seminar I heard in Bombay is that everything we do, we call it banking, but the startups in Gurgaon and Bangalore tend to call it fintech because you're doing the same things but using tech, and suddenly it becomes like it's a totally different world. Effectively, you're doing the same thing. So you end up being regulated the same way and you need to develop the same things. Because fintechs are breaking the rules, breaking barriers in a lot of sense, so banking also has to follow suit. So I don't think they're a big laggard. They're actually probably one of the areas where there is, despite all the regulations, they still do a lot of innovation in their whole ecosystem.
Thank you. What I see is the challenges, okay, and based on your expert comments today, I see the mindset needs to be more matured. And that can happen, which I like, Mark, very much, to build the trust through the technology. Then people are still afraid of technology. The technology should be easy, where people can use it seamlessly. They can use SIM card, but use the technology seamlessly. That is where we should focus more. And the difficulty what people are facing, if they don't face this difficulty, then more penetration should happen. And that's where the banking environment look for such kind of the seamless technology which can be implemented quickly, whereby the microfinancing or digital line of credit can be offered easily. That's how I see to summarize all of our discussion. Thank you very much. Thanks for my